Welcome to Music and Mind Live. I'm Renée Fleming. I love exploring the science that connects the arts and health, but I'm also fascinated by where that information is leading major arts presenters and healthcare providers, and especially how they might collaborate. I have fantastic guests this afternoon who will tell us about their work together. Christopher Koelsch, president and CEO of Los Angeles Opera, is one of the smartest, most creative arts leaders I've had the pleasure of working with. He has guided LA Opera through a remarkable period of reinvention and has embraced relationships with LA medical, veterans, and health partners, including the USC Zilka Neurogenetic Institute and Keck Medicine of USC. And joining Christopher will be Vice President of LA Opera Connects, Dr. Stacy Brightman, who is responsible for programs that served 140,000 students and community members annually. One of those initiatives, in collaboration with the Mindful Veteran Project, MVP, involved women veterans writing poetry about the myth of Eurydice, to coincide with the world premiere of Matt O'Coin's opera on that subject. The poems were set to music and performed at LA Opera earlier this year. So I'm happy also to welcome the founder of the Mindful Veteran Project, Gail Soffer. She has a long history as a counselor, teacher, and program director using the arts to promote wellness, and her program serves both veterans and active duty military, guard, and reserve members, as well as their families and caregivers. And finally, I'm especially excited to welcome my friend and fellow alumnus with me of both the Eastman School of Music and the Juilliard School, Todd Frazier, composer and director of Houston Methodist Center for Performing Arts Medicine, CPAM. The only center of its kind in the country, CPAM has a specialized group of physicians working to address the health of artists, including members of the Houston Symphony, Houston Ballet, and Houston Grand Opera. A past president of the National Organization for Arts and Health, Todd has spent 25 plus years forging and supporting collaborations between medicine and arts communities. Before we begin, I want to let you know that after today's episode, we're going to take an August break so we can recharge. But we'll reconvene on the Tuesday after Labor Day, September 8th, so be sure to mark your calendars. And a reminder to submit questions in the comments section there. The program has now garnered more than 450,000 views. I want to thank you all. So I want to begin by welcoming Todd Frazier. Todd, this is a great opportunity. I'm so happy to see you. You're one of the first people to inspire me to be interested in this sector, and because Todd's a terrific composer. I want you to please tell us about CPAM and Music Care. So I remember well when you founded CPAM. How long ago was it?
Well, Dick Stasny, the famous opera doctor, founded CPAM nearly 30 years ago. But I think what you're referring to is it's about 8 or 9 years ago where we sort of went beyond caring for the artist to look at how the arts can care for all patients within the hospital. So we now have a robust music therapy program, arts integration program, and research program. And what we're about to share with your viewers is something that we've adopted during the COVID crisis that we think is especially appealing to large institutions, which is your theme today, of how we can continue to reconnect with artists live and help patients, especially as they're feeling isolated because of the limits of visitors they're having in the hospitals.
Well, please do share this. We're very excited to have something live that's this important. Thank you so much, Todd.
Well, we're about to go live to Houston Methodist Hospital. One of the leading clinicians there who represents a large institution, Dr. Dalla, who is a critical care physician. She oversees the virtual ICUs. She also supports several COVID ICU units. She's really our hero and mentor for this. She looked for a way to bring a more holistic approach to care to her patients, and one of our researcher named Dr. May Ray, who happens to also be a world-class pianist, led this effort of live virtual interaction and performances with our patients. We're working with groups such as the Houston Symphony Orchestra, again, another large institution. But this is a wonderful example of how Houston Methodist, a very large medical center in Houston, and the Houston Symphony, for example, are continuing to work together, rethinking, repurposing how we can use technology. So really, I'd like to hand it over live. We think this is the very first time this has ever been done, but this is happening in real time. I'm going to hand it over now to Dr. Ray, who will be the pianist sharing with a patient in the surgical ICU. Dr. Ray.
Hi, hi, my name is May. As Todd mentioned, I'm a research scientist in music and medicine at CPAM. And so my role at CPAM is I'm the principal investigator of a few clinical protocols investigating the neurological and physiological impact of music intervention. So as the researcher, I am well aware of all the solid benefits, for example, reductions in stress hormones like interleukin-6, epinephrine, cortisol in ICU cohorts that undergo just a brief 30 minutes of relaxing classical music intervention. So as a musician, I really wanted to marry the two amazing areas together, and had a wonderful clinical collaborator, Dr. Dalla, to thank for that. So right now I'm going to play for my friend Ron in the ICU, and let's see, hi to Ron, let's separate. Hi Ron. So, would you like to hear some music today? Okay, so I'll play a little bit of Rachmaninoff for you, because I think last time we had some Chopin and Beethoven. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Brava. Ron, thank you so much for allowing us to join you in your room. Can you tell us from your perspective what the benefit is of hearing Dr. Ray play for you?
Thank you for including me in this opportunity. Listening to music like what we just heard is so calming to the spirit, so calming to the emotion. And the listeners, I can close my eyes and the music takes you away from, the world of the house. Allows me to enter into whatever worlds that will come with the music.
Thank you so much. Dr. Dalla, how is, from your perspective, what has this done for your patients?
So here, at Methodist, we do this holistic approach to patient care, taking not only the physical ailments into consideration, but also we want their emotional, mental and spiritual well-being. And we look at these, this gift given to us by these amazing artists, but not only performing for our patients, but also for our staff, who face a very high risk of burnout during this pandemic that we're going through. Many of our patients, like Ron, so beautifully put it, the presence of music adds a whole new dimension to the way we, feel and enriches the soul and our spirit. And I'm joined by Dr. Mosley, who is our medical director, and actually Ron's transplant surgeon. And we're very excited to do this at Methodist, and we are all benefiting from this, and we are having the most awesome experience with this gift of music. Thank you, Renee, for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's wonderful. And Dr. Ray, I have to say, I feel privileged to be gifted with one talent, but that you have two, that's a little bit unfair. Brava, that was so beautiful. Todd, I want to say also that my colleagues Yo-Yo Ma and Emmanuel Axe have also performed for patients at Houston Methodist, which is, first of all, so generous of them to give of their time in that way, but also what an extraordinary experience for the patients who have heard them play. Tell us about how you've built this program up. It's extraordinary.
Well, I have to give a lot of credit, or all the credit, to Dr. May Ray. She has artistic connections around the world. She's a world prize winner in piano. So we had certainly noticed that when the crisis hit high point in New York, some of the artists there also started to do this. The program there called Music Heals Us. May knew a lot of those artists from summer festivals, and also knew there were a lot of artists not going to summer festivals anymore. And artists in Houston, part of the Houston Symphony, for example, that were kind of on hold. And so, especially when, as around the nation and the world now knows that Houston is really a kind of a hot spot now, although it does seem like we're turning the corner. We said, well, this obviously is something that could be of great benefit, but not just now. It's interesting what we've sort of thought of during these vulnerable, stressful times. We certainly feel we'll continue this type of experience. And as it pertains to the theme of the session here, large institutions, we may just repurpose our live musician budget to go into these new formats, because really, we May played for Ron, that was just a 2.5-minute piece. And so she may play for Ron a piece or two, but then they'll just go right next door. So you're not just getting one, she might get 6 or 7 patients within a 45-minute period. And I might say right now, as we speak, members of the Houston Symphony are doing this same program in the COVID ICU. It was just going to be harder for us to get in there with the cameras in the COVID ICU. So it's one of those examples of, I think, something valuable and beneficial that will come out of this pandemic.
And you have a beautiful instrument at home that people can enjoy. It would be very tough to carry that around from room to room. So that makes a huge difference as well. It gives you more flexibility, and it gives the patient more flexibility. I agree with you. Well, we're going to come back to this question about how you're expanding this. So thank you so much, Dr. Dalla, Ron, and Dr. Ray. I'm so grateful for your time and for your allowing us to experience this live. Bravi, everybody. And now to the Los Angeles Opera. This is an excerpt from the Veteran Song Cycle connected with the Women Veterans Eurydice Project. And the music is performed and composed by Brooke DeRosa, and the texts are by women veterans who wrote poetry for the project. We saw recently with Creative Forces at Walter Reed that allowing veterans to express the trauma they've experienced through art can be cathartic, especially when speaking about it is too painful.
Oh, the joy of seeing the light again after feeling the despair of darkness, not daring to dream of a second chance in the depth of smothering weight makes taking a breath an effort, pointless really and almost painful, prolonging the suffering, but what choice when the pain has no apparent end and the darkness stretches into infinity, yet the breath sneaks in and on it goes.
Thank you. Bringing on Christopher Koelsch, Stacy Brightman, and Gail Soffer. And we're going to begin with Christopher. The LA Opera's involvement with the health sector is especially extensive. Can you tell us how you and Stacy began these collaborations and why?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having us. I think these programs are all born out of kind of fundamental philosophies that the company has. And I mean, as you mentioned before, in my mind, the performing arts in general, but classical music in particular, has a kind of ineffable power to connect us to a deeper version of ourselves, our aspirations to beauty, transcendence, catharsis, consolation, but most importantly, a connection to each other. So to my mind, the experience of classical music and of opera in particular is an inherently therapeutic endeavor. And then secondly, as an institution, we've always believed that access to art and all of its intended benefits are a fundamental human right. And so we want to make sure that we have opportunities for every member of our community to participate in the project of opera. And then finally, the opera company, I mean, of course, we're not a social service organization, but we do believe that we have a civic and a moral responsibility to employ our artistic assets in partnership with other institutional leaders in our community to be of value to and unite the community in any way we can. So that's the kind of foundational bed of the activity. And then out of that, we have this extraordinary leader in Dr. Stacy Brightman, who simply is indefatigable in our pursuit of forging those connections in our community.
Gail, I'm going to go on to you now because I want to hear about the excerpt that we just heard. Can you tell us about the Women Veterans Eurydice Project and what the impact has been on the veterans you serve?
This has been an amazing partnership with the Los Angeles Opera. We're able to bring hundreds of veterans and their family members to the opera. At this point, it's in the thousands. And at some of the performances, our group is escorted backstage to the rehearsal hall, treated to lovely refreshments, and we dig into the themes in the opera, finding the bridges between the military experience and the opera experience, or the themes in the opera. And it was a wonderful opportunity to share those talkbacks with the general opera audience, So we wanted to do a deeper dive into the themes of the opera Eurydice. So in partnership with California Humanities, also a partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities, we did a series of workshops exploring those themes. Have you ever found yourself on a really wonderful time, everything's going well, thrown into the land of the dead, darkness? Was there ever someone like Orpheus who said, hey babe, just follow me, I'll get you out of this mess? And what has your experience been of back, which was a major issue in coming out of the land of the dead? And we explored that just by telling stories and talking about it, but then also writing prose and poetry and making art. And for the women, and because Eurydice is an opera told from a woman's point of view, this particular project was women veterans only. It was really something, because when you see your story expressed in a Greek myth, in an opera, in a play, elevated to the level of art, it takes so much of the sting of it out, shame, and knowing people are coming to hear your story, sitting in a beautiful opera hall, paying really good money to hear your story. You don't have to hide your story in shame. So the expressions of what it was like being in the land of the dead, however that trauma or homelessness or mental illness or whatever it was experienced, to talk about that, to elevate it to art.
You know, I heard you speak about the program not long ago. I was so moved. Can you tell us about veterans' homelessness and this dangerous isolation that they may be experiencing right now during the pandemic, and how the fact that you're keeping your programs going? It's fantastic.
Yeah, we made quite a leap because our work is based on mindfulness, paying attention, connecting, exploring possibilities. And I was adamant, it's like, this is about connection, this is person to person, this is using all your senses. And it was kind of, well, close up shop or eat your words and give it a try. So we did take everything virtual, and it's been essential. It's been essential because isolation, maybe not being able to connect with telehealth, not being in 12-step program groups, not having that sense of unit and team, the camaraderie. At least if it can continue on a screen, and it's like everyone's in the little boxes, but there they are. You can see people, they're alive and kicking, and the stories can still be shared, and the expressions can still happen. This is literally life-saving.
Oh, thank you, Gail. Stacy, we're going to show an excerpt now of mezzo soprano. Speaking of the little boxes, of Nani Sina leading a weekly Music to Remember group as part of Alzheimer's Greater LA. And I saw her with patients at the Rancho Los Amigos Rehab Center. She's an amazing communicator. So telehealth music initiatives really work, don't they, Stacy?
They, to our delight, and they absolutely are working. And it's interesting, you know, we just jumped into it. And everybody was patient and kind with each other, and we learned how to, you know, fix the sound on Zoom, and we learned a lot of things. But this wonderful community has sprung up, which is interesting. The program you're going to see right now happens to show just a very small snapshot, but it's actually drawing from, there are people from Compton Adult Day Health Center on it. There are people from Arts Work on it. It's an interesting way that, once again, the music is threading people together, and
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see this excerpt from Nani. She's fantastic.
Here's a little Moon River, my friends. Feel free to dance. It's good for the blood. And if you don't feel like moving much, you can even just move your hands. Do a little hand dancing, right? Right, Emilio? Here we go. Moon River, wider than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Oh, dream maker,
wherever you're going, I'm going your way.
Is she playing? Is she playing for herself?
She's doing a combination. She's got a lot of pre-recordings. She sometimes breaks out the ukulele and accompanies herself. She's doing and she's sometimes playing and accompanying herself. So it's the camera's sitting right on her keyboard.
That's super. Well, the thing I love about LA Opera is you have many, many relationships and collaborators in this across the city, and I was able to witness them coming together for a conversation and really learning so much about each other's programs and what the options are. Christopher, in particularly in light of the pandemic, do you see the role of an opera company evolving in the future, and especially I'm thinking about this type of work?
Well, I think we've always thought of ourselves as being a natural meeting place for the community. And one of our fears, of course, in the wake of the pandemic was allowing those connections to fray. And so we've really doubled down on making sure that we are connected to artists, to audiences, that we're connecting the two, and that not only are we maintaining all of the relationships that we had going into this, but hopefully we're using this opportunity to reach more people than we otherwise would. I mean, those at-home programs, of course, through digital reach, are allowing us to reach tens of thousands of more individuals than we could before. So yes, I do see an institutional shift in that there's a world of opportunity, frankly, that's opened up for us that we need to lean into in the future.
Yes, I think the entire health sector is going to continue to grow. Todd, you've been so innovative when it comes to developing your programs and thinking about the fact even that we are on furlough or out of work. Tell us about how you're thinking about scaling up arts programs that will put musicians to work.
Well, thank you. We have been thinking a lot about that. I'm proud that we are sharing a lot of our resources on a special website called cpamonline.org. One of the things we're doing is sharing on patient trays, thinking of ways to access patients safely, art projects, phone readers to download playlists, lyric replacement types of exercises for patients that when they're emailed back to our music therapy team, voila, we record the piece for them with their lyrics and send back, and you talk about something memorable. We also are lucky enough to have a TV channel that we control the content of 24 hours a day. This goes to all the patient rooms and waiting rooms. And we've completely repurposed that channel within this current climate. Of course, we've always wanted to lower anxiety and lower stress, but the rejuvenation and hope part of it, and also connectivity part of it, since the patients, many of them are not allowed visitors. Many of them are very isolated. People like Ron, there's no windows in their room either. So I think if we have time on this session, I did offer an example. I'm very excited about this example because, again, it's something that we didn't do before COVID, and I just don't know why. We'll continue doing it.
Let's look at the art video. Let's look at it right now.
Yeah.
I want to take this class. So in these artists and really expanding what you're producing in no way replaces music therapy, is that correct?
Yeah, that's a different division we have. Our music therapists, we're proud to have 11 music therapists that most of them do work full time. They're working hands-on with clinical teams in mental health, in rehab, in cancer, wide variety across our system. These examples we're showing you today are what we call music in medicine, our arts integration, how we use the arts to provide engagement and to provide some hope, and also certainly relieve anxiety, but they're not so much part of the clinical care and reporting on the patient's success. But the video you saw, we hired a visual artist, we hired a musician, we hired a videographer to take people to a popular place near Houston called Galveston. So it's bringing the outside in, and it's just, I don't know why we never did it before, but people love it. It's a 30-minute video that shows the painting from beginning to end, set with music. And now we've commissioned several of these that show up on the patient TV channel.
So last question before we get to questions from listeners. What is the feedback from artists and performers? What are they getting out of it?
Christopher, do you want to jump on this one or you want me to?
No, I think you should.
Ecstatic. If it's possible, it's been even more healing and soul saving, I think, for the artist involved. And I've had people raising their hand, eager to do it. And again, they're all having to stretch their horizons too. Who knew so many, we could create so many home studios, and now it's been life-saving, I would say, for artists.
Todd, you're getting that kind of response as well? People are enjoying it and finding it meaningful, I would imagine.
They're thrilled to be called. They're thrilled to work and to contribute. And I think it's also meaningful to know that they're using the arts in a way that maybe broadens their traditional use of how they use the arts. So the idea of contributing to helping patients and to healthcare providers, or to people that might be having difficulty during this time, is not something that most artists are traditionally doing in their regular workday. This is an added benefit that I think, it's not just within our institutions. This is really a renaissance, I think, around the world, the field of arts and health. The National Organization for Arts and Health, easy to find online, has some wonderful guides on where this is happening and how it's happening, and a map around the nation of where this is happening. It makes so much sense. And as we all know, as artists, we really do need to broaden the definition of professional success for artists. There's so many talented people wanting to share. And if we start to integrate these opportunities within the education system, certainly the conservatory system, I think we're going to have a growing arena of new careers.
Oh, thank you. Hear, hear. And Gail, I mean, serving veterans is something that we all are proud of when we can help. And you're finding too, I loved your story of taking veterans to the opera and them saying they felt just like everyone else, that it was, of course, going to the opera is actually a special thing.
Just everyone who came with us, even if they started out going, why would I want to do that? It's, for rich people, or I don't like that kind of music. A lot of what we do is explore with openness and curiosity, so people would give it a shot. And the comprehensive experience of being in such a beautiful environment and hearing the pre-talk from the conductor, and the staging, the lighting, the costumes, the live voices. People kept saying, you sure they don't have microphones? You sure they don't have microphones? I music and feeling the vibration of music. And then wonderfully, our seats were near where people could read the translation screens. They didn't have to take a crash course in German the night before. But the all-encompassing experience of people just feeling uplifted and connecting to the stories. And I mean, there's one person in particular who says, I drag myself out of bed to get there, and I take my buses, and a lot of burdens, physically, mentally, emotionally. Said I start feeling better as soon as I get there and meet you to get my tickets. And then the pre-talk, I'm feeling like a human being. And by intermission, I have this grin on my face, and I don't even want to leave my seat. And I'm good to go.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
So
yeah,
feeling that's happening.
Thank you. So beautiful. We have some questions. Lauren asks, with boundaries and technology expanding, are we finding new ways for a more participatory role on the part of the patient? That's interesting. Todd.
Well, in the example that you saw, I'm sure that many of your listeners do have questions. We have developed a very thorough set of guidelines and orientations for the musicians and also the caregivers that we call arts and health liaisons. So that's based on our environments of care programming guide. So that you can find all this on our CPAM website. That would be important if it's an institution wanting to replicate this, and we're certainly happy to share any of this information. We also have these live virtual performances where the patients can make requests. We all have met these extraordinary artists that seem to have thousands of songs in their heads in any genre and any keys, and it's a fantastic way to utilize those folks for a certain genre or even a certain specific kind of music. But again, as you may have music therapists on your listening list today, we do go through a pretty thorough orientation with the artist because we just want to ensure success. As a teacher once mentioned to me, make sure we have a bulletproof project going on. Anything from just how one would properly interact with the clinical staff and the patients to having signs. Many times the patients fall asleep, and that's just fine, and moving on like that. So there's also developing, as the world of arts and health grows, a whole new set of educational parameters and standards that go along with that, which is also should be noted and is important, that can be start to be included in the training of artists.
So Chris from Chico asks, what ways is music therapy useful to treat substance addiction?
Do we have any programs, Stacy, that are specifically for addicted people?
Actually, some of the work that we're doing with some of the veterans hospitals, for instance, the VA centers, are very, and again, working very closely with Gail, just to kind of reflect on something that several people are sounding the theme. It seems to be kind of a holy trilogy, or a holy trinity, I should say, of there's the doctor, there's the art therapist, and then there's what we can sort of provide in terms of the other emotional and social support. And so we work really carefully and hand in hand when we're going into some of the psychiatric wards or some of the recovery wards, in terms of, again, repertoire selection, inviting people to sing along, being coached as to how to interact with patients, and then just trying to really transfer that all over into our new online world. Yeah, and of course, a lot of the patients or constituents or clients with mindful veterans also are grappling with some addictions.
Melody asks, I sing for the LA Opera and do hospital concerts and sing in the various wards for patients at a local hospital. And we have seen amazing reactions and have gotten such wonderful feedback from the patients and staff. It's a very moving experience to see how our voices immediately make a difference in their lives. So that's a wonderful chapeau for you for doing this program. That's great. That's coming from an artist. It's terrific. We have a question from Rosalva. Are there any programs tailored to support medical staff through music, or are there any programs to help relatives of those who are in hospitals?
We have a wide variety of programs. We actually have a 30-second video called environmental music therapy. So some of our music therapists are creating music at nursing stations in areas of high anxiety around the hospital, to both improve employee morale and to engage and have people have some rejuvenation. I'd say it was surprising to me when I started in this field, but I would say almost half of the programming that we do is actually geared toward the employee and is supported by our HR departments because of their heightened sensitivity to a burnout, which has been mentioned, and helping support a work-life balance, which is all just being, accentuated right now. A lot of our classes we have, creative writing classes, video photography classes, our employee choir, all of those have been taken online. Our CEO asked us to do more recently, so we have actually found how to interact with the most employees possible, and that happens to be 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. when the first shift is leaving the shuttles and parking lots coming into the hospital, and then 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. when the night shift is coming. There's a little video of that depending on how much time we have. So
Yeah, we're definitely going to play something at the end. We've got your morale boosting video for the end. I'm gonna squeeze in two more questions because they're great. Anton wants to know if there are music programs for teens on the spectrum of autism, the autistic spectrum.
Well, there certainly are. As far as I can recommend, the earlier you start the intervention, the better for the autism spectrum. There are many excellent schools, public and private schools, catering to the autism spectrum. I would encourage you, as you're looking for those schools, to see if they have invested in the arts, to see if they have a music therapist or an arts integration program on staff, and those would be the ones I would recommend.
Last question. Andrew asked Stacy or Christopher, does LA Connects also bring music into at-risk schools, prisons, and for youth? And are there diversity initiatives in these programs?
Absolutely, yes. For very vulnerable communities and traditionally disenfranchised communities, we have a whole range. We're very fortunate. God bless, Christopher and our board of directors, and that this work has always been supported. It's been seen as kind of core work, and as we talked about at the beginning, as kind of this is a fundamental operation of an opera company. Something, Christopher, I'll quote you. When you look at our mission statement, it says that our job is to provide the best opera, music, drama to the largest number of people. It's not necessarily to sell tickets. And so we have this, we're very fortunate to have a very robust and very well, championed set of programs that go into schools serving all kinds of, again, communities that have been traditionally ignored. And we're just starting to partner with some, again, I think partnership is the key word here. Starting to partner and having some conversations with UCLA, which has a very interesting education in prison programs, an arts integration program there. So pursuing that and built into all of this is I would say a profound commitment to representing our community, to inclusion. Right now we're in our third week of Opera Camp, and for Opera Camp we do living newspapers celebrating social justice heroes. So we're looking at the African American civil rights movement and Japanese American internment and the Chicano movement. So it's we've tried to center that, and I would say look to experts, look to good friends, good partners who we can humbly go to and say, help us be better, help us expand.
Thank you. I'm just going to say that I hope that both of your organizations and also yours, Gail, serve as a template for other cities, for other communities around the world, because it's extraordinary the way in which, as you said, collaboration is the key. And bringing large institutions together can only serve where you live. I want to thank our extraordinary guests today, Todd Frazier, Christopher Koelsch, Dr. Stacy Brightman, and Gail Soffer. And we look forward to seeing you all again on September 8th. And for a reminder, do sign up for the newsletter at my Facebook page or my website, reneefleming.com. And I encourage you to review past episodes of Music and Mind Live on my Facebook page, Renée Fleming Music. In the meantime, stay well, take care of yourselves and those you love, and keep the music playing, or better yet, keep playing the music. And I'm going to leave you with this example of a morale boost for healthcare workers at Houston Methodist Hospital. Thank you all.